Alright guys, so let's get this video started. We're going to unclog our extruder. Make sure that you have your machine turned off and disconnected from electricity at all times. We're going to start off by removing that magnetic front where the fan is and disconnecting those wires that are attached to it. You're going to need both of your Allen keys, some pliers, some tweezers, and if you're going to do the cleanup, you're going to need some cotton swabs and rubbing alcohol. Now, we're first going to remove the Bowden tube. There is no need to remove those two screws holding the Bowden tube down. Just push down and pull out the tube, but be very careful of that ribbon, okay? You don't want to ruin any pieces that you might need to order, and then you won't be able to use your printer. So you're going to see that that ribbon is right in front of where you have to push down. So here in another view, I'm going to show you how to start disassembling everything. So you have the filament cutter, which is right there. Make sure that you unscrew that, but before you do, push it to the right so you can cut whatever filament is left in there. After that, just start unscrewing it and the piece will actually pop out. You don't have to unscrew it completely, just enough to get that cutter out. Moving on, we're going to start disconnecting the remaining cables. Again, be very careful because these are very delicate. So once you disconnect all cables, we are going to unscrew with our big Allen key the three main screws. We have one right behind the cables, one at the top left and one at the bottom left. The one at the top left is visible easily, and the one at the bottom left, you can find it next to the filament cutter piece. All right, so I want to start doing that. Alright, and once you have that, you can just pull out the piece. You will need, you don't need it, but I like to have it close by. This is a magnet. This is a very cool tool my husband found at the dollar store. It's kind of like retractable, but I like to keep it close by. So just pull out the whole piece and let's change views so you guys can see exactly what we're going to start disassembling. Okay, so with the big Allen key, you're going to take these two screws off, and these are for the nozzle itself. Alright, so let's get those out of the way. And once you take those out, you can pull the nozzle out, and then we're going to be performing a cold pull to remove the remaining filament that is in the nozzle. So for those that have never done a cold pull before, I recommend using the small Allen key, heating it up with a flame, and then marking it where the filament is in the the nozzle, and then heating it up again. I like to do that twice just so I have the shape of the thin Allen key marked, and then I can heat it up more, like further down on the key, so I can push it down further and then have a stronger cold pull. So that's what you're gonna see me doing here. And when I push that piece down the second time, you're gonna see me pinching the sides of the Allen key, and that's the filament. So I just want to kind of like grasp it in place, so when I perform that pull, it completely comes out clean. All right, so that's what you're gonna see that I'm doing right now. Once you have that done, just pull firmly and the nozzle will be clean. So that is done. Let's set it aside and continue taking apart our extruder. I'm going to clean this because I'm going to need that small Allen key further along. So let's just leave that tool ready to go. Alright, so moving on, we're going to start removing the 4 main screws. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to start removing those, and this is where the magnets could come in handy. Another cool thing you could do is you can magnetize your Allen keys, so when you're unscrewing them, they could just pop right out with the key itself. Now, if you've never magnetized anything before, just leave the piece where you want it to be a magnet stuck with a magnet for a couple of hours. You could leave it, heck, I've left things magnetizing for weeks and it works. Like, it lasts a long time. So that's a really cool thing to do if you haven't done it yet. But here you can see how easily they pop off once you have them loose. There we go. So you're just going to take the lid off, and you're going to have exposed a small little bearing on top of the yellow gear. That bearing is loose, so you can easily take it off. But the yellow gear itself might be stuck, like in my case, but it's usually easy to pull out. Now, my issue here is that the filament will go down or won't go up. So I know that my issue lies beyond that yellow gear. So I'm going to loosen up the spring that is on the side of it. Now be very careful once you remove that screw completely. It's a very long screw. Once you take it out, be careful because that spring has a little cap that you could lose it easily. And that cap is very important because that is what is keeping the screw in place. Now, here I'm removing the screw, so you're going to be able to see what I was just telling you about. Here's the spring and here's the little cap. So keep it close with all the tools that we do not want to lose. Now here you can see that I still can't pull out that ring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let go of these screws with the small Allen key and that little board. That is holding mainly, be careful of those ribbons. That is holding mainly the part where you just place the filament, the boat into, pushes it forward through that section, and that little board is what gives it the instructions to do so. So we're just going to start disconnecting that, and it's not really a rectangle, but it's a rectangular piece, more or less. So once you unscrew the 4 screws, 2 on the side and 2 for the board, you're gonna be able to gently lift that piece out, and that won't be stuck with the issue that we're trying to solve. It's mainly just to move the filament up and down. So here you can see that I'm removing that last screw. I'm going to be removing the board gently because we do not want to damage the board. But I'm going to put the small Allen key underneath and try to pull it out. And there we go. Again, be careful of that ribbon. Now we can pull this piece out. Perfect. Okay, moving on. So here you can kind of see a little bit better what's going on with that stuck filament. But I still cannot pull it out. It's really stuck in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this yellow gear. And now the way you would remove the yellow gear is just turn it sideways, get some pliers, and push that gray gear out. And that's just gonna push the yellow gear out of the way. Now you can clearly see what the issue is going on here. So if you take a close look, the filament isn't going up or down because it's kind of like bulged in there. It's with the back and forth going inwards and outwards, the machine couldn't really get it out. So I'm going to show you a closer look once I cut it out of the way. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to cut the top of it. And here you can see exactly what was going on and why that wasn't moving or going anywhere at all. So that little thing was giving me the issue. I was gonna say yes, because it's probably, if you're opening this up, it's probably what's going on in your printer too. But that's what's mainly going on in there. So now this is the part where you would clean up everything with the cotton swab and then grease everything up again. Mine is pretty clean, so I'm not gonna do that now. I'll probably do it the next time I open this up. But here you can check around this little gear if there's anything like stuck filament, which is, you're probably going to have little pieces of filament in there. So if you can at least remove those and then clean it up, if you feel like you need to clean it, then this would be the time. I'm checking all around here and just removing little plastic debris. It's pretty clean. And it still has grease, so I'm just gonna leave it there. So we're gonna start assembling this back. So let's go. Alright, let's put that gray piece with the gear back where it was. Let's place that yellow gear as it was, along with the spring and the cap. Now we're going to screw in the spring in place. And now let's place the bearing on top of the yellow gear. Perfect. Alright, moving on. Let's place the lid back where it was, along with the 4 screws that were holding it together. And last but not least, we're putting back that filament piece, one that goes tied to the Bowden tube. We're putting it back. So once you have it in place, make sure you put the board back too, and then screw everything together. Now here you can see that I am finishing up this part by screwing the board back in place, and you're gonna see a little blooper because all of the sudden the nozzle is already in place, and that's because I had already put it in place and then I forgot I didn't put the board, so I went back and I recorded that. So yeah, that happened, but no worries, I still have the recording on how to place the nozzle back on the extruder. Alright, so here we have it. We're going to place the nozzle back on the extruder. Place both screws and then put them in place. Really simple, guys. Alright, so let's start wrapping this up. We're going to place our extruder back in place along with the 3 main screws that hold it together. Afterwards, we're going to put back the filament cutter, and while we are holding it in place, to the right side of course, we're going to start screwing back that filament cutter little screw that's on the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And last but not least, I am going to be placing all the connectors back in place. So I'm starting off with that thin ribbon. We're placing it where it belongs. Alright, and now following the sequence, you're gonna know which one goes first and which one goes after, because one cable is longer than the other. So obviously the longer cable goes higher at the top. So just be very careful with those. You don't want to ruin them. Make sure you're putting them in place. And then you're going to connect the Bowden tube. So just push it inwards. And then place the connector for the fan. Once you have that, put the magnets for the cap back in place and you're good to go. You should be able to print again with no problem. Thanks for watching, guys.